things are starting to happen for Liverpool Football Club in the transfer window. So we're back with another transfer update, and although it's not massively focused on incomings, it is still a little bit quiet around that at the moment. There is still enough movement to make a worthy update, and I also think it's always, in terms of potential outgoings, that's always going to have an impact, isn't it, on income, so always worth discussing. And I'm going to start with confirmation from the club today that there's going to be 10 departures this summer on free transfers. Now, 2 of those we absolutely expected. They got a farewell at Anfield, and of course talking about Thiago Alcantara and Joel Matip, who's confirmed in Liverpool's statement today that they are part of the on the list of players who will be released. But maybe some other slight surprises in there, or players that we didn't know what their future was going to look like, and I'll reel off a few of those. Adam Lewis, Melkamu Frauendorf and Matthias Mushilovsky. Now, they are all players who've appeared for the first team, who've come through the academy. All 3 of those will be released on free transfers this summer, so they're able to go to other clubs, and you've got to wish them all the best, really. Great that they made it into the Liverpool first team, but obviously not quite at the level to make a significant impact, and therefore they're going to have to move on and find the next move in their careers. And then a few other academy prospects who didn't quite make it to the first team have also been released. I'll just list those now. It's Nathan Giblin, Francis Gima, Luke Hewitson, Niall Osborne and Cody Pennington. They again will all depart on free transfers, so ready to make the next step in their career away from Liverpool. And now, it wasn't just confirmation of who was going, maybe a couple of actual surprises in there. The biggest surprise of all really was the fact that Liverpool have offered a new contract to Adrian San Miguel, the third choice goalkeeper. Now, it's my understanding that's a 1-year deal, and I say surprising in the sense that maybe we didn't largely expect it, but there were hints that this was going to happen in how the farewells were dealt with. Obviously, Thiago and Matip got big farewells on the pitch. No such thing for Adrian, even though he's played a part in Liverpool winning big trophies down the year. So maybe there was a hint there that he was going to be kept on, or certainly get this contract offer. And I think, it's one of those really with him. It's kind of a surprise in the sense that you just thought it'd be a natural break. He has spoke about wanting to go back to Spain recently as well. It maybe felt like, at the age of 37, it was time for him to go back and try that. But I do kind of understand Liverpool's thinking in that, third choice goalkeeper is not a massively important position, is it? You've got someone who's well liked in the club. He's got a great experience. He's played in the Premier League. He'll be going into his 12th season if he does sign this contract, and so it does make sense to just give yourself one less thing to do in a summer that's packed with so many things to do. We talk about it all the time, contracts, sorting out so many appointments in the backroom staff, and also the transfers that Liverpool are going to have to do as well. So to sort of limit that, I kind of understand where Liverpool are coming from that, and I do expect that Adrian will stay, because on the basis that, yes, he had spoke about a potential departure and maybe going back to Spain, but I don't think Liverpool will put it out there that they've given him a contract offer if they didn't expect that he would sign it, and if those discussions aren't pretty much at their end, and he's going to put pen to paper on that. So I would expect Adrian San Miguel to stay put this summer. Now, I've had a few tweets off the back of writing that story, and people sort of questioning, well, does this make sense from a homegrown perspective? But I think, I think people can get too fixated on that at times. Now, we already know that Liverpool have freed up 2 non-homegrown spots by Joel Matip and Thiago Alcantara leaving. So we know those spaces are already there in the squad. If they do have an issue around homegrown, in UEFA competitions, for example, we saw last season Adrian wasn't even included in the squad for those because they could get around that with a sort of there was a loophole in the rules where they could include him if they had a bit of an injury crisis among the goalkeepers. So not really a concern around that. And I think in the Premier League, in terms of the homegrown spots there, as I say, 2 spots already free. And I think in terms of potential incomings beyond 2 players, I think if Liverpool to sign 3 players who don't count as homegrown, I already think it would. You're still in a position where the squad is. You're probably going to have to open up the homegrown spot anyway by selling someone. I think you don't want a squad that's bloated. So the idea that Liverpool would add 3 and not let anyone else go beyond the 2 they've already let go, I kind of find that hard to believe. So I don't think the homegrown issue is anything to really be concerned about, and I think Liverpool will open up that space if they feel they need to. And also the opportunities there to buy players who count as homegrown. I'm thinking players who've been linked in the past, like Levi Colwill, or any English player they could sign to come in as maybe backup goalkeeper, or whatever happens around that. So it's not something that I would be massively concerned around. Clearly Liverpool, in offering Adrian this new contract, they feel like they're already across it and they're not too concerned about that one. So I don't think it's one for supporters to worry about. Now, I did touch on the backup goalkeeper and the situation happening around that, so we'll talk about Caoimhin Kelleher, because I think there's been some interesting developments this week around him. Now, it's my expectation, and I've said this before, that I think he will leave this summer. I think there's going to be big interest in him, but there's a story I put out today around what that's going to look like from Liverpool's perspective, and basically their stance is that, you know, they absolutely are not in the mood to give Caoimhin Kelleher away, and that they're expecting offers north of 20 million if they are to sell him this summer. Now, to be honest, for me, that's a justifiable stance. Obviously, Kelleher's absolutely signalled, hasn't he, in that interview with The Athletic, that he's ready to go and play first team football, but it doesn't make sense for Liverpool to give him away. I mean, you look around that market in terms of goalkeepers, and I think a really good example is James Trafford signing for Burnley last summer, from Manchester City, of course. Now, it was a £19 million deal that was agreed between the two. Now, James Trafford, his past experience at that point had been a couple of really successful loan spells in League One, hadn't appeared in the Premier League, and was valued at 19 million. So I think, you know, if you're looking at Kelleher, I think he absolutely should be north of that, because he's got 47 appearances in total for Liverpool. Obviously played a lot of Premier League games in amongst that. He's won the League Cup twice. He's been part of a team that's won the League Cup twice. So his valuation should be north of 20 million. You know, Liverpool are absolutely right not to want to give him away. I think, you know, they should drive a hard bargain, because he's got great experience. He's absolutely proven this season when he's coming for Alisson that he's ready to take that next step and be first team. And I also believe, of course, he counts as homegrown because he's been at Liverpool for such a long time. So again, that adds something onto his value. So I expect Liverpool, you know, as I say, it's my understanding, will drive a hard bargain, and they want bids that are north of 20 million to even come to the table. And I like I said, I believe they're right in that. And we know that Michael Edwards, when he was previously at the club, that he always, you know, as good as he was in terms of buying players, and that's something everybody's excited about, he also drove a really, really hard bargain in terms of selling players, and that was a really big part of his role. And so with this structure that he's putting in place, I'm sure that will be the rules again, almost, that he'll say, you know, we have to be you know, really good sellers. We have to be difficult in negotiations to make sure we extract the maximum value so we can put that back into the team. And particularly when it comes to a player like Kelleher, who, if he goes, he's going to be hard to replace from that homegrown perspective, from the fact that he's an unbelievable backup goalkeeper. I mean, how many times did Jurgen Klopp describe him as possibly the best backup goalkeeper in not just the Premier League, but maybe even the world? And I think that was at times looked like a very fair sort of description of him. So Liverpool, in my opinion, absolutely right to drive a hard bargain. It looks very much, or is my understanding, that they absolutely will. Now, we'll talk a bit on incomings now as we move on, not just all about outgoings, and one where, again, a story I've had this week and from speaking to sources, and you will have seen earlier in the week that some links to Goncalo Inacio at Sporting Lisbon, the defender. He was linked last summer as well, actually. And the latest story was that both Liverpool and Manchester United are monitoring him ahead of a potential move this summer. Now, that kind of makes sense from the idea that we all know, don't we, that Liverpool are looking at defenders ahead of this summer, and that is an area of the squad they would like to strengthen. But it's my understanding that Goncalo Inacio is not on the list for Liverpool this summer. He won't be the centre-half that they chase if they do ultimately sign one. Talking to sources, my understanding is that, you know, the agents maybe are using Liverpool's name to maybe drive the price up a little bit, or not necessarily to drive the price up, sorry. That would be more what the club would do, but the agents are using it to sort of drive up some interest and to get clubs moving who would potentially be interested, to think, okay, well, if Liverpool are interested, we better move quickly. So not one that I expect that Liverpool will follow up on, or you know, I'm sure he's a player they've seen in the past and have watched. You know, they watch the Portuguese league very closely, but Inacio is not a player I expect to turn up at Liverpool this summer. Sources telling me he's not on the list there, so one you can maybe check off as a potential signing for them this summer, despite those reports claiming to the contrary. Now, similar situation with Alan Varela at Porto, another Portuguese league star who's been linked. He obviously he moved over from Argentina last summer and has done pretty well by all accounts in his first season at Porto, and he's been linked as coming in that defensive midfield role. But again, the word is that, again, it's agents trying to drive up interest in the client, not something that not a player that Liverpool are expecting to make a move for this summer. So again, one you can maybe check off your list of potential signings. That list maybe gets smaller and smaller at times, but we know Liverpool, they bring signings out of left field. So if you're not hearing names out there, I would never worry about that. Liverpool do the business very, very discreetly, and sometimes it's easier to rule players out than it is to rule them in. So it can absolutely rule those two out. But like I say, don't worry, it doesn't mean that they're not going to make any signings. But I do think it's interesting with reference to Varela, obviously at defensive midfield position. That is a position that I think a lot of people would like to see a signing in, and I have seen reports this week suggesting that Liverpool are already ready to move on from Wataru Endo. They're ready to cut him loose so that you can make a signing in that position. But it's my understanding, again, from speaking to sources close to the play, that's not anything that's been communicated to his side of things. He's very happy at Liverpool and would absolutely be determined, even if it did turn out that Liverpool were willing to make a signing in that position. He'd be absolutely determined to fight for his place and prove his point, as he did do last season. It took him a while to get in the team, but once he was there, he absolutely showed his value, didn't he? And my thinking is, in terms of the defensive midfield signing, I still, and this is my personal view, I still am slightly sceptical about whether that will be anywhere near to a priority for Liverpool coming into this summer. I do expect that forwards will be something they look at. I do expect that a defender will be something they look at. But I think in midfield, and I've said this before, I just think numbers-wise, they've got so many options in that position. It would surely require movement there and someone to depart to open up a vacancy in midfield. I do expect the other positions, forwards and defenders, will be at least more of a priority than something happening in midfield at the moment. Unless an unbelievable deal is out there for Liverpool to do, and it's maybe one they think they can't miss out on. I still think they would have a numbers problem in midfield. That is something they've really got to think about there. Now, of course, things do change really quickly, don't they? So that could change on that front. You could see some movement there, and maybe a big comes in that makes Liverpool change their mind in terms of what they're doing in that position. We never know, but of course, because those things can change quickly. Of course, the best way to keep track of this transfer window, as ever, is to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll try and bring you updates more regularly. Hopefully there will be a little bit more happening in incomings in the coming days, because that would be, that's the more exciting stuff, isn't it? But I will try and keep you updated in terms of what's happening in terms of outgoings as well, because obviously all that money goes back into the pot, and it's always important in terms of Liverpool squad building, isn't it, what they do in terms of outgoings. So as I say, things change quickly. It's all happening thick and fast, and it always will be in the transfer window. So I'm sure I will see you guys very, very soon.